teeny tiny bit of JavaScript, but there wasn't much. There was just me sort of basically setting a couple of values, actually changing a couple of classes. The widths were actually in the CSS. Anyway, 2 elements affected, fraction of a millisecond, thumbs up for us. The problem now comes when we actually look at the consequences of our actions from the layout perspective. 35 milliseconds, we wanted 16, we got 35, we're not happy. We had to do the whole document just because basically the elements we were dealing with were actually quite high up. And there isn't much we can do at this point. This is what I was saying earlier. It's a very expensive thing to do layout. It's not something you're probably going to get away with inside an animation today, most likely. And especially, bear in mind, 35 milliseconds on desktop, on mobile. Expect 5, 6 times-ish more expensive, but 60 frames a second is still your limit. So keep that one in your heads. So if you've not used this tool, by the way, you're looking for all those bars along the top to get under that 60 frames a second line, if you can. So styles and layout then. Small style changes, big layouts. It doesn't make you feel really good, does it? But not all layout is triggered by JavaScript. I think that's a really key point. You can trigger layout with CSS by changing a width or having a transition that's triggered on hover. The whole point is if you change the geometry, we're going to trigger some layout or reflow. Layout isn't painting. And it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but if you change the geometry of the page, sometimes you're going to repaint, especially if things were grouped together, like when I move the picture of me, but sometimes you're actually not. So it's kind of helpful to then say, okay, which styles affect layout? And it's pretty much these, really. This is in order. As you go down the left column, then the right column. Width, height, padding, margin. If you change these either through JavaScript or through CSS, you're going to incur some kind of layout cost. Okay, just let that soak in. Okay, cool. Carrying on then, let's do another record with another demo. Let's do some layout thrashing for funs. Okay, change all these paragraphs to match the width of the green block. It was a horrendously long time. If you didn't notice it, don't worry, because we're going to actually have a look how long that took. I have a sneaking suspicion about 1.5 seconds. Yeah, that's right. 1.5 seconds. Again, we were looking for 100 milliseconds. We got 1.5. Not doing so great there. So let's find out why. Well, of course, you already know, I'm sure. We calculated a style, then we did some layout, and so on. Let's go back, re-record, and let's do it properly this time. Happy days. Do it right. Ta-da! Now, we wanted 100 milliseconds because it was just a single resize thing.